Hello everyone, Bob Leaves Around the World, and in today's lesson we're going to be talking about yellow hair, or commonly referred to as blonde hair. More specifically, we're going to be covering a doctrine that states that yellow or blonde hair is cursed and is unclean according to the scriptures. Now, this particular doctrine is something that I heard a lot growing up from among people who were affiliated with One West Camp doctrine. So we're going to cover that. Now, blonde hair in general is something that is very interesting because in the Western world, there seems to be almost like an agenda or a forced narrative around blonde hair, portraying it as the absolute pinnacle of perfection, beauty, and masculinity. Because the examples are endless. You have Princess Peach from Nintendo, you have Rapunzel, you have Barbie, and then of course you have Steve Rogers from the Avengers. But it doesn't even end there because anime does the same thing. And I've actually covered this particular anime show on the channel before, warning people about how demonic some anime shows can be. And in this particular anime, the demon was a redhead, but the pure angel of holiness was blonde. So the narrative in that show was portraying the holy angel as being a blonde and the devil, the demon, the monster, as being a redhead. So you really start to see the narrative that's being pushed with this blonde hair stuff. And when I went overseas and traveled to a lot of the European countries, I saw just how many, specifically J-phatic women, wanted to fake to be blonde. Like literally none of them were. I would be walking the street to go get my daily groceries and I'd walk past, I don't know, like 300 people. That might be a stretch, more like 30 or 50. And all of them would have fake blonde hair, like all of them. You would see the brown roots. And that's when I started to realize that pretty much nobody on this earth is blonde, naturally. Everybody looks like something else, but they feel the need to look a certain way. And that might be due to the way the media is pushing this blonde narrative. Because if it wasn't for this narrative, how many people would feel the need to fake to be blonde? And if something were to happen tomorrow where all the hair dye companies would go under, pretty much the entire earth would just be full of black and brown heads. All right? And one thing I'd like to say that goes back to this One West doctrine of yellow or blonde hair being a curse is of the idea that there's some type of conspiracy going on behind the scenes, and that blonde-haired or yellow-haired people are pushing their hair as being superior in the media to rebel against the Most High, who says their hair is in fact unclean in the scriptures. So we're going to, clear up the confusion and get on into this. Okay, we are going to start where they start with Leviticus chapter 13 and verse 36. But one thing that the One West camps and just people who push false doctrines in general do is they like to isolate and twist verses. They won't read the full chapter in its complete context because that would show that what they're saying is not actually what's happening in the Bible. So let's just read 13 and 36 like they do, but then we'll read more and see the true context of what's really going on. Then the priest shall look on him, and behold, if the scale be spread in the skin, the priest shall not seek, for yellow hair is unclean. So this is what it says. See, blonde people are dirty, they're unclean. Brown hair, black hair is superior, and it's a whole whacked out conspiracy. Blonde hair is nasty. That's where all this comes from. Okay, but let's actually read in full context and look at more verses than this one isolated verse. Okay, so let's go up all the way to verse 30. Okay, verse 30. Let's actually start at 29. If a man or a woman have a plague upon the head or beard. Okay, so this is talking about people who have contracted a plague, a disease. This is not saying that somebody born looking like this is cursed or unclean. You're not born cursed or unclean. But just to prove that, we're going to read that again and we're going to keep going down. If a man or a woman have a plague upon the head or the beard. Verse 30. Then the priest shall see the plague, and behold, if it be in sight deeper than skin, and there be in it yellow thin hair. See, they go like that, yellow thin hair. Fat, they'll be like, see, that's a perfect match to the Japhetic Caucasoid. It's nasty hair. They'd be all like that. It is yellow thin hair. Then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a dry scowl, even leprosy upon the head or beard. Okay, so this is talking about people who have received leprosy. Okay, you're not born with leprosy, because Japhites who are born with yellow hair are not diseased. Okay, this is talking about people who don't have yellow hair, who receive leprosy and turn yellow, not people who were born yellow. Okay, it goes back to people trying to use the instance of Miriam being turned white by the Most High Yah to say that white skin is a curse, when Noah was born white and with white skin and was pure. It's like the idea, white skin itself is not a curse. The curse is not initially being white and being turned white. For example, if Jones, if a guy named, Rick Jones is born as a Caucasian man, he is not born cursed. The Most High Yah didn't make him cursed from coming out of the womb instantly. What really would be a curse is if that same man was born as a swarthy Negro and he turned white. That's the curse. You're not cursed for being born away. The curse is when you are turned white. Miriam was a black woman who got turned white. Noah was born albino. He was born with fair skin. He wasn't cursed, but Miriam was. Why? Because she turned white. He was born white. Same thing here with the leprosy. You were a Negro with black, fluffy hair, and now you have thin yellow hair. It's leprosy, and it's unclean because you turned that way. You weren't born that way. But let's keep reading. Then the priest shall see the plague, and behold, if it be in sight deeper than the skin, there shall be in it a yellow thin hair. Then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a dry scowl, even leprosy upon the head or beard. Okay, it's leprosy. And if the priest look on the plague of the scowl, and behold, it be not in sight deeper than the skin, and that there be no black hair in it, then the priest shall shut him up that has the plague of the scowl 7 days. Okay, now let's keep going down even more. And in the 7th day, the priest shall look on the plague, and behold, if the scowl spread not, and there be in it no yellow hair, and the scowl not be deeper than the skin, he shall be shaven, but the scowl shall he not shave, and the priest shall shut him up, that he has scowl 7 more days. And in the 7th day, the priest shall look on the scowl, and behold, if the scowl be not spread in the skin, nor be in sight deeper than the skin, and the priest shall pronounce him clean, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the scowl spread much in the skin after his cleansing, then the priest shall look on him, and behold, if the scowl be spread in the skin, the priest shall not seek for yellow hair, he is unclean. But if the scowl be in sight at a stay, and that there is black hair grown up there, the scowl is healed. He is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. Okay, so I want to stop you right here. I want to stop right here. So it says, and there is black hair grown up there, grown up in the leprous spot. The scowl is healed. He is clean. Okay, so if you are a Caucasian who's naturally blonde and you caught leprosy, and your hair starts to grow back, it's going to grow back the same yellow color that it was before. So you were never diseased and affected in the first place because your hair was yellow before you caught this disease and it stayed yellow while you had it. It's interesting because the majority of Negroes have dark black hair, and it's talking about black hair growing back. All right. These weren't Japhetic Caucasians at all here, and they weren't blonde. Okay. So it's talking about black hair coming back. But if you already had blonde hair, then blonde hair is what's going to come back. That's the phony thing about these doctrines, is you don't read in context. It's just like the white skin. Already ranted about that. Miriam was cursed with white skin. She was turned white. The white skin itself is not a curse. Just like yellow hair itself is not a curse. All right? It's a sign of having leprosy. It's like yellow hair will come with having leprosy, but that doesn't mean that someone born with it it's not a leprous, cursed person. But if you were not initially always that way, and you turn this way, it's unclean. You're unclean. You got to get fixed. All right? Okay, that wraps up this lesson. I hope that helped anybody who was struggling with that particular doctrine. It's another example of the children of Israel starting to adopt the wicked ways of the children of Japhet that we experienced during the Jim Crow era and during slavery, because it's becoming more and more common for Israelites to practice scientific racism against the sons and daughters of Japhet, just like they did to us during the Jim Crow and during the slavery era. And the whole idea of trying to make somebody born cursed because of their hair color is another ridiculous thing that's not, which is not supported by Scripture. And it's this type of stuff where you have to, walk with, discernment and read the Scriptures in their entirety, because almost every single false doctrine, I would say every single false doctrine, is created by either twisting Scripture, isolating Scripture, or both.